Hey everybody, my name is MxRheyRhey and welcome to my art channel where I primarily focus on watercolor and abstract acrylic art. Today I will be using Artesa's woodless watercolor pencils, Winsor Newton watercolors, and a Winsor Newton aqua pasto. The aqua pasto is a medium that you use in watercolors to make them more, I don't know if granulate is the word. It looks granulated, it doesn't feel that way. But it is just a medium to make watercolors thick and more textured. So this painting will be like my first time using it, and I was actually very pleasantly surprised on how it worked. So that'll be really exciting to see. What you're going to be seeing, though, even right now, is kind of my process. I'll be trying to do a more realistic painting this time around. So I'm trying to get like my foundational shapes, and then I'll put in like some smaller details with the colored pencils. Then I'll get to coloring, and the aqua pasta will actually be the background just because it's the first time I'm using it, and I didn't want to mess anything up, so I used it as simply as I could possibly imagine. For a painting that I wanted to start taking seriously. And I don't know what to do now. I'm not very good at small talk. I don't have a lot of practice in giving speeches or conversational things. Literally before I was recording, I recorded first and then I didn't like it, so I stopped it. And then went on my phone for about 20 minutes, as ADHD lets me do, looking up 101 different topics to talk about. And then by the end of it, I realized none of these will work because these end up having like unique conversation. You need another person to have this conversation with, and that's not something I can do right now. You know, like this is a solo voiceover, and like small talk would even be even worse. Like, oh yeah, no, how's the weather where you are? Yeah, I really hate small talk. Because like I like the like I live on a farm. I live out in like boonies, small town. I don't know how you get that in California, but you know what? You just do. And like I could talk about the weather for 30 minutes. I used to be able to tell you my favorite kinds of clouds. My favorite kind of weather is when it's raining and sunny, because like what the fuck is that about? But like it turns out, and I learned this very early on in my tiny years, that you can't just talk about the weather for 30 minutes, because then people, like, once you're out of like this cloud of talking that you get done with, and you look at the person who you're talking to, they are either not there anymore, or they're looking at you like you're crazy, and you're like, wow, you feel very passionately about this one topic that was literally just a passing by tiny conversation. I was like, I can't do that. And it made it very, very awkward for me to learn how to interact with people throughout my entire life. Like, it's kind of dumb. Like, I don't know. I grew up with a lot of challenge. Like, it felt like challenges to me, but then people around me, a very specific group of people around me, not like my family or anything, just like a specific list of people who I had to interact with on nearly daily occurrences, sporadically throughout all the places I needed to be as a child. They would just stare at me and look like I was stupid because like I wanted to know how to do specific things, but to them it was like, well, why don't you just do it? And I was like, you don't tell me how. And then so that just leads to bad things and bad interactions, and I didn't like it, so I avoided doing that. And by avoiding everything, I ended up a 26-year-old who doesn't know how to converse with people properly. That's not supposed to sound sad, but when you say it out loud. Oh, I like this. I liked using these colored. Okay, sorry. I'm watching this along with you as I'm doing the recording, so this is a first for me. I just really liked using these colored pencils. I guess I could talk about art, I don't know. I guess, yeah, I could talk about art. 5 minutes into the video and I'm getting to a topic finally. I don't know. Yes, art. Art is a topic that many people can have whole conversations about. I guess that's something I could also talk about too. I don't know how many times I have told you guys this throughout the channel. This is like video number 5, I think, for the channel. But I started taking my artistic hobby seriously as an actual hobby, like wanting to practice and get better at it, starting in January of 2020. Coincidentally, it's now August as of this recording, so like this is 8 months into my artistic life. I didn't really it wasn't, oh sorry, that was my water. It wasn't really a challenge for me to figure out what I wanted to do as a medium. Watercolor always seemed like maybe not simple, because I've had artist friends my entire life. I've always just been like watching them do things, and I always thought they were so amazing and everything. And honestly, like the first thing you do as an artist, or when you become an artist, is usually just start with pencil and paper, and like you do sketches and all of that. And like that is how you fundamentally start. Like your parents, when you're 2, are not going to give you like acrylics and washable paint because you're 2 and you'll make a mess. So they usually just give you pencils and paper because that's either more easily washable, or like it won't get to the surface of what you're drawing on. So I should not be drinking water and talking at the same time. That's how you drown. But these are not Winsor Newton watercolors. Those are, I don't know why. I just got some Winsor Newton watercolors. You'll see those in a later video. But like these are, what do they call them? Gen Crafts. I got them on Amazon. They're like a starter watercolor kit. So my bad for that. I actually like using those watercolors. They're very vibrant and they're good for beginners for the price. I didn't want to start out with like 48 or so different colors when it came to having to learn to use watercolors, because a lot of it can simply just be about mixing the right colors together to get the different sort of like hues or vibrancies that you want. But my mom was wanting to be supportive, and so she got like, well, the more colors you have, the less time you have to think about the colors that you want. And I'm like, that's not how my brain works, but I appreciate the thought, and I actually love these colors a lot, so thank you. So there was that. But yeah, so like I keep mentioning actually throughout this video, is about my inability to keep my attention on important things. Like, I'm not diagnosed officially with ADHD. It's more of a self-diagnosis just from observations that I had my entire life. And like, I don't know. So it's very hard for me to keep conversations or like stay on one thing for a very long time. Or if I do, that's all I focus on. Like this owl that you can now see me doing, I chopped it all down to like 25 minutes or so, but like this took me like 2.5 to 3 hours. I didn't get up off my seat unless I needed to go get more supplies, like, or pee, I guess. But like usually if I'm in like normal mode, not like a hyper focus mode, I'll get up to like get something to eat. Like every 5 or 10 minutes I'll like I can't sit still for very long when I'm not hyper focusing. And like I feel like these terms like hyper focus and like stimming and other things like that, they're not just for like people with ADHD or autism or like those with nervous disorders. Like that, these are very good general terms for people who just are like not this way but like to fidget. Like some people, like I have a family member who likes the feeling of specific rubber bands They've been like this since they were a child. They like the feeling of very specific rubber. Like they'll like keep a rubber band on their wrist, and anytime they're just like not thinking or like they're not doing something with their hands, they'll like rub the rubber band that's on their wrist, and like as I guess is like a mindless comfort. But like things like that are normal, and I feel like we should use them more in everyday vocabulary so we can be more sensitive with each other, you know? Like be like, oh hey, you bounce your knee a lot. I actually like clicking pens. Like, okay, those two are like very, very not good examples because those are the ones that like we get in trouble with the most. But like they're universal experiences. At one point, everyone has bounced their knee up and down because either they couldn't sit still, or like they were trying to focus on something, or things like that. I went off tangent again. Where was I? I was talking about my art stuff. Okay, art. So it's been 8 months since I've taken art seriously. I've dabbled with things before. Like, I have a very bad habit. That's why I was talking about ADHD. I have a very bad habit of collecting other artistic hobbies rather than watercolor. Watercolor was actually something like I literally kind of just took like a main interest in January. I don't know why. I was like, if I'm gonna be an artist, I want it to be watercolor. But that didn't stop me from like going into other mediums. Like I have actually I started all of this with acrylic paint. Like I did the fluid paintings. I actually started getting really good at them, and that's why I started thinking, well, maybe I should just be an artist. Maybe this isn't something that could just, be like a thing that I like to do. Not like I didn't like labeling it a hobby for some reason, even though I had like 10 different canvas paintings, all with these like fluid acrylic patterns on them at that point, hanging everywhere in my room because I didn't know what to do with them. I didn't want to give them away because they were not, like in my head, they weren't good. And I don't know, I was staring at them like, well, what if I did? Like, I would still continue to want to learn how to be a better abstract painter from them, but I never considered it a hobby until I was like, you know what? This is something I like to do. So why not, And so that's how I started all of this. And then I was like, well, I want to get into like structural paintings. I can't do that if I have like fluidy paint going everywhere. And then I thought watercolor, which is like the most fluid a paint can be. Yes, actually, because it's water. Like inks are just a bit above that, but the viscosity, they are like water, but it's because there's a thicker substance in there. I have a really weird way of thinking about things. I'm sorry. But yes, so I went into watercolor because I figured I already had like a background with like fluidity. So I figured water, and I always liked watercolors. I have a very traditional Portuguese family. They're very much into cowboys ever since I was really little, and my grandpa actually used to have like cowboy wallpaper all over his room. And when you look at it, you'll notice that like a lot of old Western paintings, especially from like the older movies, they're done with watercolor, and I always thought they were really like pretty, and it seemed like, I don't know, so complicated how they could layer things like that to get the right colors and all of that. So watercolor has always been like a very, very responsive medium for me, like internally. So I guess that's why I was just like, okay, if I'm gonna be an artist, I'm gonna be mainly a watercolor artist, even though I started with fluid acrylics. I still do fluid acrylics. I actually sell them on Etsy. Trying to start that up. I'll stop trying to promote myself. It's weird, It's really weird because sometimes you want to because it's good. It's a good practice to say like, oh, hey, by the way, I have this if you want to go check it out. But then like I've been conditioned that anything I talk about myself is bragging, and I don't know why. It's a condition because it was conditioned into me. But like, I'm not bragging, I'm just reminding you all that I have an Etsy shop if you want to check it out. There will be a link in the description. I'm trying to make smaller paintings that people can afford, or actually, since I am on the, I'm not actually bragging, I'm just trying to do like a small promotion thing. I also have a Patreon page if you guys want to check that out, because I know my paintings are expensive, but if you like what I'm doing so far, you can help support me by going to my Patreon page. The link will also be in the description. For the artist tiers, because it's I conjoined my Patreon page with my artist channel and my gaming channel because I am a multifaceted person. The artist tiers, if you guys want to check those out, there is a tip jar tier, which is just $1 or anything you guys want to donate, I guess. There is a art buddy tier. Those I will try making, like, the benefit of those is you get notified when I start doing like art live streams on Twitch. Once a month I will try to have a 4x4 vinyl sticker come out for you guys. It will probably be of like my little mushroom pantheon. Well, it's not a pantheon, it's literally like 3 little different mushroom characters. They're sort of like just like my signature characters, my OCs, if you will. So once a month I'd come out with a little 4x4 vinyl sticker of those guys for my art buddy, which is the lower art tier. And then the higher art tier, which I call like my art patrons. I'm still trying to think of better names, but that was like the most basic I could do for just trying to set all the basic stuff up. You will get all of the previous tiers. I don't know about the sticker yet. Maybe. Probably not, actually, because I want like each individual tier to have like their own specific thing, sort of. So the 8 art patrons will also get notified. When I am live streaming, they will be able to help me with figuring out topics to either discuss or try out on my channels. They get, what I was trying to establish before I was actually putting a structure to it was, I'm talking more than I need to about this. The art patrons will get a 8x10 art print once a month. So like the buddies get the stickers, the patrons get art prints. Once I start getting patrons, this owl, by the end of it will probably be the first art print that will come out. You'll decide if you want that print or not by the end of the video when you see like the very final process of it. But yeah, I'm just trying to promote that. I'm trying to make this a living because I have problems with not working for myself. It's not like I can't, it's just it puts a lot of struggle on me. Last time I had a job where I was actually like, I was working at like a restaurant as a cook. I was like the head weekend night cook. So obviously I was very pressured because it was mostly just me and the owner of the restaurant. But like a lot, like my family and my boyfriend at the time would notice that like I would be getting like skinnier, like I was eating properly, but the stress was like making me lose the weight that I was eating. I had very bad like dandruff, like stress-induced psoriasis on my scalp. I'm still recovering from that actually, and it's been like 5 years. So like it's all of that, and just the pressure of it was not healthy for me. So this was my only other alternative, which was be my own boss. And that's very hard to do, but it's a little less stressful than having to have like a normal-ish job, which I'm not like bashing other people who like do that. Like I know I can't, otherwise I will put myself in trouble. So this is my alternative. So if you want to support my patron like that, go check it out. What was it? I keep talking about different stuff. Oh, here's the aquapasto part. I completely forgot about that. So yes, what I actually did was I used a metallic gouache along with some, I believe it was MxRheyRhey watercolor, and mixed it with the aquapasto and a little bit of water, so it wasn't just like clay. It was, excuse me, that was the apple I ate earlier. Just so it wouldn't be like, you know, too thick. You always have to add a little bit of water to your watercolors, otherwise, like, what's the point of it being a watercolor? But yeah, I really enjoyed using this aquapasto, actually. I want to use it in future paintings as well. I just need to figure out, like, to what extent, you know, it'll be different for every painting. But yeah, I actually also really like using palette knives. It's not always as applicable when you're using watercolor, but like I was saying before, I was promoting myself. I dip into a lot of different other mediums. So actually, after I was getting pretty like beginner or novice or any like a good structure on the watercolor, I kind of took a little tiny break from that and started learning about oil paintings. So I have a little oil painting set, basic colors, beginner stuff, but I actually use the palette knives a lot for those. It was really fun, but then, you know, with my attention span, I wanted to do more because, like, well, if I'm just gonna be an artist, I should be well-rounded and learn everything. But then that didn't work out for me because I started like losing control. So I took a break for a second. I said, okay, my main goal is watercolors. If I need a break, I will like do 1 or 2 paintings in a different medium, whether it's fluid. Well, okay, the fluid acrylic is another job of mine, so I have to do that more on a regular basis too. So I actually don't get burned out with watercolors very often, but when I do, I'll go like back to an oil painting, or I'm learning oil pastels now as like a side hobby. I have calligraphy ink that I'm mostly using that to enhance the watercolor, so I don't necessarily see that as like another side hobby, but it's not something I practice very often, so it's not like getting in the way of watercolors or anything like that. But yeah, so you can expect not just watercolor from this channel, mainly watercolor, but later on you'll be able to see me do like all these different kinds of paintings once I'm more applicable. I'm actually also doing spray paint. That's the one I first started getting into after watercolor because I really like the feel of it all, like this, how to do spray paints and like the graffiti and stuff, and like even the mural graffitis. Like I just think they're really fascinating and like beautiful. So I'm also dipping into that as like my third. So like I think my main 3 would be fluid acrylics, watercolor, and then spray paints. And then later on, if I feel like it, like the oil stuff and other things. Oh, I guess I'm done. So this is a barn owl. I was really happy with how this turned out. The metallic background was amazing. It was a good offset to just like the owl itself. I did use a reference piece for this, but I cannot find it right now. But I hope you enjoyed my ramblings. I guess I'm done talking. I'll see you guys in the next video then. So enjoy this, and I'll get out of your hair.